Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I made this lionO sprite in Photoshop. So the Thundercats show was a cartoon fairly popular in the 80s, and I quite liked to watch it as a kid. I know it's not very popular now, but the iconography of the characters and the fact that they were all based on felines was interesting at the time. So to build the silhouette, I'm basically working with the outer outlines, and I'm trying to fill in the shapes with a flat gray, and this will help me just really convey a strong, bold silhouette. And I play around this quite a while, even during the drawing and shading phase. I'm still fixing the proportions all the time. I'm trying to get a good pose here where I can show lionO holding the sword, which name I don't remember. But as well, I want to try and show like the claw, which was I think the sheath as well for the gun, for the sword. And again, I'm trying to get this noble or strong pose to go along with sort of with the attitude of the character. But right now, everything is looking a little too bulky and a little too wide. So what I noticed the most is that the legs are really short. And the reason why they're really short is that I didn't really take the time to do a proper sketch underneath. I went straight into shape, right? I'm building the palette here off of the colors from the original character. So basically you had skin tones that were close to tawny as well, for like it was basically skin / fur. And then the blue to contrast with the warm tones for the armor and boots. And then the fiery red to remind you of the lion mane, but it was a little more like in towards the red-haired kind of shades. The type of shading I'm using right now is I'm just separating the further objects, the ones on the right, which are supposed to be further from the camera than the ones on the left. And I'm using those with a two-tone basic shading. And I'm also using the same color of shadow to do a chiaroscuro kind of technique, which is I'm separating the light and dark. And the shape I attribute to that shadow line is going to provide information on the volume. That's why you can kind of infer the muscle shapes on the arm and the thigh as well as the knee because of that. I take now the darker skin shade as well to do darker tones on the far leg, which I'm going then to use for a little bit of details within the shadow side of the near leg. And I'm also going to use that color for other details throughout the character. Now, again, here I'm struggling mostly with figuring out where I want to put my detail and the readability of the character as well. The head is still too crunched into the torso, but because I'm not zooming in, I'm just working from afar, and I'm still kind of like tunnel visioned into the shapes of the shading because I'm trying to keep within the three shades: highlight, midtones, and shadows. So I'm sort of missing these little details, like the head being a little too stumped down into the neck, as well as the legs being really short. I'm also looking at reference, of course, on Google, and that's why I can kind of replicate most of the shades according to the original concept. My memory is good, but it's not that good that I would remember something from the 80s without looking up reference, of course. So adding more shapes here really is just going to break the flatness of that shape there from the thigh, but also it's going to convey a little bit more of information. Here I'm having to do the eyebrows and nose, and lionO and some of the other characters had like different colors for the area of the mouth and chin, kind of reminding you of like what a leg and an attire look like. And so it's interesting to have to come up with skin tones that are not really skin tones, but also you have to do them in shadow. And the trick is to kind of figure out whether anyone looking at this will read that as a shadow or if they will read that like as a weird makeup shape. So I just pushed the head off of the body a little bit. And I'm kind of fighting. This is something I don't realize. Looking back at it now, I realize is that I made too many details on the neck, which kind of make the neck look wrinkly, which almost immediately makes the character look older than they're supposed to be. So I try to fix that with a line on the jaw, try to make it more pronounced, try to remove some of the wrinkles from the face. But really now looking back at it, I think it's the extra and noise I put on I think it's also the trapeze muscle. The way I shaded it, it looks wrong. So the sheet, I don't really remember that well, but I think it was either gold or kind of chromy gold or chromy yellow kind of effect. So what I'm trying to do here is trying to simulate gold by having random reflections of light and dark next to each other, because gold can be very, very reflective. And I'm not clever enough to figure out the reflections of the body onto the glove, but I can kind of throw over that shape some darks and some lights in kind of a way to convey what the material is. And I ended up with this idea of a gold kind of glove. Also fixing the sword. The sword's blade isn't really that iconic. The really distinguishable factor from the sword is the guard, so the shape of the guard and the emblem of the Thundercats on the sword as well. Here you can see me kind of fix the face, try to get that shape off to not look like too much of a shadow. Oddly enough, on the forehead, I didn't put the shadow on the forehead, and it kind of looks like the face is, it's like it has a tan on it. But I think I'm trying to fight the clock in a way. So here I extend the legs a little bit more. And what I like about it is that the proportions are nicer. But what I don't like about it is that the proportions are now a little more realistic. And even though the characters in the show were drawn to be kind of realistic, I still, prefer to have this more stylized, more dynamic kind of silhouette. Also, what I'm doing now is selective outlining, or what sellout. Some people call it sellout, which is like a short term for it. Selective outlining isn't necessarily about using a specific color to do your outlines. It's more about being selective with the colors that you put in your outlines. And you can use this as a way to create a sense of edge detail that isn't there. So if you put in a darker color at a certain point in the silhouette, you're basically conveying a slightly different volume without changing the pixel shape of your outline. So that's a little extra layer of detail you can add in the really last moment of your image. I also decided that I need a darker shade of blue around here to add to the wrinkles on the chest armor, but also because I just need that shape to be a little bit more contrasted. Add a bit of outline here from the red color from the hair, and I'm also going to add a little bit of selective outlining both to the sword and to the hair. The sword I find it weird the way it looks, but I like how it looks more than without it, right? It's something I'd still have to fix. But I think the selective outlining just makes the image look a little bit sharper, right? And it's the same thing with the hair. And this is how it turned out. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and that you learned something from it. And I'll see you again. Bye-bye.